Retatrutide is getting a lot of attention right now, and with good reason. The early trial data showing over 20% body weight reduction is genuinely impressive, better than we've seen from any other GLP-1 so far. But I want to make a case today on why Retatrutide isn't necessarily the best option for all women who want to lose weight, and specifically why for women who are in perimenopause or menopause, Tirzepatide might be a better tool. Now, this isn't about one being better than the other in absolute terms. It's about understanding the mechanism enough to know what is the right choice for your specific situation. And let me tell you, menopause changes a lot. I've covered both of these peptides extensively on my channel, and I've tried both. I'll link to my full peptide playlist up above if you want to know more about my personal experience. But today we're talking about women who are going through perimenopause or menopause, because there's a lot of nuance here. Your body is going through a lot of hormonal changes. So while Retatrutide might sound appealing, it might not be the best choice for you. Now, to understand why your peptide choice matters here, you need to understand what's happening to your metabolism during menopause. Estrogen decline is the central driver. Estrogen plays a direct role in insulin sensitivity, glucose metabolism, and fat distribution. As estrogen falls during perimenopause and menopause, insulin sensitivity decreases. Fat storage shifts from the hips and thighs towards the abdomen, and specifically as visceral fat, and metabolic rate tends to slow. Muscle mass also declines during this menopause transition, driven by both hormonal changes and the way the body responds to protein and training stimuli. Less muscle mass means less glucose disposal capacity, which compounds insulin resistance further. And then there's cortisol. Sleep disruptions are extremely common in perimenopause, and these disruptions raise cortisol. In turn, elevated cortisol raises blood sugar, and chronically elevated blood sugar drives insulin resistance deeper. This is a compounding cycle that makes the menopause metabolic transition significantly harder than the hormonal changes alone would suggest. What this means practically is that the primary driver of weight gain and body composition changes during menopause is insulin resistance, combined with visceral fat accumulation. So the solution here isn't as simple as eating less and moving more. I think we all know that that's not an effective strategy at this point, and even more so during menopause. And this is why GLP-1s can be such a helpful tool if you're in this stage of life. But let's talk about the difference between Tirzepatide and Retatrutide, and why one might be better than the other. Tirzepatide is a dual agonist. It targets two receptors simultaneously, GLP-1 and GIP. GLP-1 does several things that are relevant for this conversation. It reduces appetite and food noise, it slows gastric emptying, which helps with satiety, it improves insulin sensitivity, and reduces the insulin response to meals. And these effects are directly relevant to insulin resistance weight gain during menopause. And then we have the GIP component. GIP works on fat cells directly, supporting fat oxidation and reducing fat storage. It also appears to enhance GLP-1 effects on appetite and satiety when the two are combined, which is why Tirzepatide tends to show better weight loss results when compared head-to-head to semaglutide, which only targets one receptor, GLP-1. The combination of GLP-1 and GIP creates a dual approach to the problem of insulin resistance, improving how cells respond to insulin while also directly influencing how fat tissue handles energy. For women in menopause whose primary metabolic challenge is insulin resistance and visceral fat accumulation, this is a well-targeted mechanism. But now let's talk about what Retatrutide adds to the equation and why it might not actually be necessary. While Tirzepatide is a dual agonist, Retatrutide is a triple agonist. It adds a third receptor to the picture, glucagon. And this is where it gets more aggressive metabolically. Glucagon activation significantly increases metabolic rate. It drives more pronounced fat oxidation and ketone production. It shifts the body towards a more intense fat-burning state. And in the early trial data, this triple mechanism is what produced those striking 20% plus body weight reduction numbers. But here's the thing. That increased metabolic rate comes at a cost. Elevated resting heart rate is part of it. That's something that I experienced personally, even on an extremely low dose. My resting heart rate went up about 10 beats per minute, which is a pretty significant increase. And for a woman in menopause whose cardiovascular system is already going through hormonal changes and who may already be experiencing elevated resting heart rate or palpitations as part of the perimenopause transition, adding a peptide that further elevates heart rate and metabolic load might not be the right call. But you have to weigh the pros and cons here. For some people who have a lot of weight to lose, this can help a lot. The glucagon component is powerful, but if the weight you need to lose is moderate, then it might not be necessary. The cons might outweigh the pros. A lot of women during this stage do find they feel better on Tirzepatide as compared to Retatrutide. But again, individual response may vary. Individual goals may vary, and where exactly you are in the perimenopause, menopause transition plays a role as well. But let's talk about the most relevant research here to this specific population. The Surmount trials for Tirzepatide are the most relevant large-scale data we have for this population. Across the trials, women in perimenopause and menopause showed consistent and meaningful weight loss alongside improvements in metabolic markers, including fasting insulin, triglycerides, and HDL. Importantly, these trials also showed reductions in waist circumference specifically, which is a proxy for visceral fat reduction. And this is the specific type of fat that menopause drives. And this is a key indicator that Tirzepatide is doing more than just causing fat loss overall. It's helping to improve your metabolism. It's helping to improve your metabolic health from a whole bunch of different angles. There's also emerging data on GLP-1 and GIP effects on bone density, which is relevant for postmenopausal women, given the increased fracture risk that comes with estrogen decline. But let's make sure we're considering everything, including the side effects. Tirzepatide has a well-established side effect profile from these trials. Nausea and digestive distress are the most commonly reported. But of course, these are dose dependent. Going up too quickly is where a lot of people will run into trouble. Now, one thing that's underappreciated when it comes to GLP-1s is their impact on hydration and electrolyte balance. A lot of the side effects people experience are from not hydrating properly. You have to be drinking more water than you were beforehand, and you need to be supplementing electrolytes. Sodium, potassium, and magnesium are all being excreted more rapidly. And in a menopausal woman who might already be dealing with hot flushes, increasing fluid loss, the electrolyte picture becomes more significant. So if you're getting some of these side effects on GLP-1s, if you're getting dizzy, if you're getting headaches, if you're constantly fatigued, it might just be an electrolyte issue. And that's why I recommend drinking Sodi's everyday hydration salts. These have no added sugar, no junk, and actually the electrolytes that your body needs. The electrolytes that you're losing more of on GLP-1s, and that you might be losing more of because of hot flushes. And like I said, this is extremely underappreciated. A lot of the side effects that people are experiencing are a pretty simple fix if you start getting your electrolytes in check. I'll put the link to Shop Sodi in the description box down below. They are an Australian company, but they do ship worldwide. So in summary, I find that Tirzepatide makes more sense than Retatrutide for women going through perimenopause and menopause. For women whose primary goal is sustained body composition improvement and metabolic health, rather than maximum possible weight loss in a compressed time frame, Tirzepatide's dual mechanism is targeted and sufficient without the additional demands of a triple agonist. But, and this is really important, these peptides do not replace the foundation. You need to be eating well, you need to be exercising, you need to be moving your body. Yes, Tirzepatide is a tool, but it's not a solution. You need to be putting the work in alongside it. Now, it does help with making better choices. It reduces your want for junk food. It increases your motivation, but you need to take advantage of that. You can't expect these peptides to be doing all of the work. Retatrutide is more aggressive metabolically. Tirzepatide is more targeted. For women in perimenopause and menopause whose primary metabolic challenge is insulin resistance and visceral fat, Tirzepatide's dual GLP-1 and GIP mechanism addresses the root problem without the cardiovascular load. Maximum weight loss as fast as possible shouldn't be your goal. Slower weight loss that you can sustain, that should be. Now, if you want to know more about Retatrutide, about Tirzepatide, about my personal experience, about my protocol, I'm going to put my playlist on the screen now. In that playlist, I also have videos on other peptides, GHKCU, tesamorelin, DSIP. There might be a few others in there now, so check it out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.